Welcome to Live Podcast as we journey through the Bible. And today we are on Matthew chapter 2. So, yesterday we did a background check on Matthew, and we saw that he was a Jewish tax collector and he was also a disciple of Jesus Christ. So, today we're going to talk about, we are in chapter 2. And in chapter 2, we see Jesus was born in Bethlehem in Judea during the time of reign of King Herod. And about the same time, there were some wise men from the east who had seen a star, and they were following the star because it signified that it was a newborn king. And so they went to King Herod, thinking that Herod was going to show them where this newborn king was. And they say to him, where is the newborn king of the Jews? We saw his star as it rose, and we have come to worship him. This is Matthew 2, verse 2. And of course, Herod, being the leader that he was, he didn't want anyone to dethrone him. And so he was disturbed. And he came up with a way to try and tell these wise men to go look for the king, and then when they found him, they should come back with word and tell Herod what he was, because Herod was lying to them he'd also want to pay his regards to this new king. So what he did, Herod, he called a meeting with the Sadducees and the teachers of the law back then to ask them what the prophecy said. And he asked them, and they asked, where is the Messiah supposed to be born? This is Matthew chapter 4 and verse 5. Where is the Messiah supposed to be born? To which the teachers of the law answered, in Bethlehem in Judea, they said, for this is what the prophet wrote. And you, O Bethlehem, in the land of Judah, are not least among the ruling cities of Judah, for a ruler will come from you, who will be the shepherd for my people Israel. Okay, and it's interesting that the teachers of the law knew about the prophecy, but even when Jesus came about, they still didn't believe him. So Herod called the wise men and he sent them their way, and the wise men went to look for the king. And he tells them, go to Bethlehem and search carefully for the child, and when you find him, come back and tell me, so that I can go and worship him too. So the wise men went, and the star finally led them to where Jesus was born, in a manger. He was with his earthly parents, it was Mary and Joseph. And when they entered, when they finally found the child, they entered the house and saw the child with his mother, and they bowed down and worshipped. Can you imagine 3 wise men, I'm sure they were of age, bowing down before a child? What did Mary think about that? What did Joseph think about that? And they gave him gifts, treasures. A newborn child was given gold, frankincense, and myrrh. It's beautiful because he is the king. He is king. And immediately after they paid their respects, the wise men left. And actually, God showed them in a dream. This is in verse 12. When it was time for them to leave, they returned to their own country by another route, for God had warned them in a dream not to return to Herod. Because remember, Herod was pretending that he wanted to pay respect to the king of the Jews, but ideally he wanted to destroy him. And after that, the angel of the Lord appeared to Joseph in a dream and warned him of the plan of Herod. And it says in Matthew 2, verse 13, it says, after the wise men had gone, an angel of the Lord appeared to Joseph in a dream. Get up, flee to Egypt with the child and his mother, the angel said. Stay there until I tell you to return, because Herod is going to search for the child to kill him. So that night, Joseph left for Egypt with the child and Mary, his mother, and they stayed there. They stayed in Egypt until Herod's death. And this fulfilled, the Bible says, this fulfilled what the Lord had spoken through the prophet. I called my son out of Egypt. So Jesus was kept safe in Egypt until Herod had gone. But Herod had already caused damage, because when he realized that the wise men had outwitted him, he sent soldiers out of anger and fury to kill all the boys in and around Bethlehem who were 2 years old. Imagine that. These children just had to die because Herod he didn't want anyone else to rule with him. And this is what the Bible says. He sent soldiers to kill the boys in and around Bethlehem who were 2 years old and under, based on the wise men's report of the star-fast appearance. Herod's brutal action fulfilled what God had spoken through the prophet Jeremiah. Imagine that. There is nothing that happens or catches God by surprise. It was meant to be, and it had been prophesied. A cry was heard in Ramah, weeping and great mourning. Rachel weeps for her children, refusing to be comforted. They are dead. These young boys, under the age of 2 and below, they died. So the prophecy that was spoken in Jeremiah was fulfilled. So after that, Herod dies, and the angel of the Lord appears to Joseph in a dream and urges him to go back. And it says in verse 20, "Get up," the angel said, "take the child and his mother back to the land of Israel, because those who are trying to kill the child are dead." Okay. So Joseph obeyed, got up and returned to the land of Israel with Jesus and his mother. And when he learned that the new ruler of Judea was Herod's son Archelaus, he was afraid to go there, because he was also warned in a dream, and he left the region of the land of Galilee. So the family went and lived in a town called Nazareth. Again, this fulfilled what the prophets had said: he will be called a Nazarene. In other words, the lessons that we can learn here, that nothing happens just by, we think it's just normal, but ideally everything that God plans or what God has said has to be fulfilled. God honors his word. The prophecies that were spoken by the Old Testament prophets came alive in the New Testament. That means we can trust God with his word and with his word. The Messiah, which are these prophecies? Where the Messiah was to be born, that is why it speaks about that in Matthew 2 verse 6, was prophesied by prophet Micah in chapter 5, in Micah 5 verse 2. Okay? And then the killing of the boys, written in Matthew 2 verse 18, was prophesied in Jeremiah 31 verse 15. And then again another prophecy, the one that says, "I called my son out of Egypt," which is in Matthew 2 verse 15, was prophesied in Hosea chapter 11 verse 1. Okay, so God honors his word, and everything that God has spoken or has said in the Old Testament will come alive, will come to pass, because that is who he is. He is true, and he cannot take away his word from who he is. That is personality. Another thing that we can learn from the book of Matthew chapter 2 is obedience is important, and obedience is key. Joseph obeyed God the minute that the angel of the Lord told him to flee. Can you imagine even for a minute if Joseph did not obey? I mean, what would have happened? I don't even want to think about that. But it is important for us to obey what God says, or God tells us to do, because the first obedience will lead to the next set of instructions along the way. But if you do not obey the first one, I don't even think there will be a second set of instructions, because you didn't obey the first one. Okay, and then another lesson that we can learn the chapter 2 of the book of Matthew is nothing, absolutely nothing, can destroy the plans of God, because Herod was trying to destroy, or thinking that he would kill Jesus in the way of as he was killing the young children, but he didn't manage, because nothing can destroy the plans of God over your life, over your purpose. So we need to trust God at all times. And just like that, we are done with chapter 2. Only 23 verses. So go ahead, read chapter 2, write in the comments what you have learned, and let us know the lessons that you have learned. If you have any questions that we can answer them, tell us and we'll have a discussion. Until tomorrow, where we do chapter 3, and that is the baptism of Jesus Christ. See you then.